Chapter 16. Meet Me Under the Mistletoe. Tom Chen had been my high school sweetheart, well before Devin came along. There's not one bad thing I could say about Tom, other than how he left me heartbroken. We had dated for nearly 2 years, when one day, without warning, he was torn away from me. Thinking back, I remembered the excitement of falling in love with him, the way his eyes sparkled when he saw me, or the goosebumps I'd get when his fingers grazed mine. The shy smiles, the stolen kisses at our lockers, the notes we'd pass in class filled me with the most innocent of love. Our connection was precious and easy. He was simply my better half. He'd always been proud of my accomplishments, and he was my biggest cheerleader. He even supported me when I ridiculously memorized The Walrus and the Carpenter to recite to our English class. Tom was always there for me, even when I was a total geek. One of the reasons I was sensitive to the holidays was because I lost the love of my life then. If you have any thought that I'm being dramatic, that's because I am. If you've ever met a teenager, drama is a requirement. I recalled our 10th grade winter formal, Winter Wonderland. Everyone in high school, by this point, had paired up with someone. Wyatt was with Sabrina, Devin with some girl named Rachel, and Brian had a date for the formal, even if it was his cousin. And I had Tom, or so I thought. A week before the dance, I remember standing at my locker, organizing what homework I'd take home. "So, what's my princess wearing for formal?" Tom stuck his head between my lockers, startling me. "I'm not sure. We're headed up north tomorrow to go shopping." I stood there and leaned my head against the locker, our nose almost touching. "Whatever you wear, you'll be the most beautiful girl in the room." He blinked, and I felt the flutter of his dark eyelashes against my skin. He was probably watching one too many teen dramas, but the words were very sweet. The final bell had rung, and Tom started walking away to catch his bus. "Hey," he called out as he turned around to face me. "Promise me one thing, Dana." I paused to hear what he had to say. "Always be you, no matter what." I smiled at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I want you to always go after your dreams. Be true to you." He bit his lip. "Promise me." I furrowed my eyebrows, still not quite understanding what he was trying to say. "I promise." "Good." And with that, he tore off towards his bus, his final destination home. Things over the weekend started to seem off. I heard from Tom less and less. The Thursday before the dance, he plunked himself down beside me in the cafeteria and provided me with some foreshadowing I didn't realize at the time. "So, my uncle isn't doing well. We might have to go to Toronto this weekend to see him. My mom is really worried." He looked down at the table, not meeting my eyes. I felt disappointment flooding through me. Sensing my sadness, he reached into his pocket and placed a small box on the table in front of me. I eyed it with curiosity, and he nodded at me to open it. I pulled off the lid and saw a thin silver chain with a rose on it, a little diamond stud in the middle of the flower. "It's not real," he was quick to point out. "My job at the hardware store doesn't pay enough for the real thing." "One day." His eyes shot up to meet mine, hopeful. I looked down at the little gift and smiled. I didn't care if it was real or not. "It's perfect," I mused. I took the necklace out of the box and clasped it around my neck. "How do I look?" I asked my boyfriend. This boyfriend who just alluded to one day marrying me. Everything in my life was perfect. "Magnificent," he smiled and kissed me on the cheek. The next night after school, Sabrina came over so we could get ready for the formal. My mom let me buy a white tulle dress with sapphire blue accents. I felt like I was the queen of the snowball. Wyatt picked us up and headed for school. Tom was going to meet us there. For the first little while, Sabrina, Wyatt, and I hung out near the refreshments, as they didn't want to leave me on my own. After a while, I encouraged them to go dance. There was no point waiting around with me. Tom was coming. At 9 o'clock, I felt a buzzing inside my purse. When I reached in to check my text, my heart imploded. "Tom, sorry, we had to leave for Toronto tonight. My uncle is really sick." I stared down at the message. I felt frozen, unsure of how to respond. Family came first, but what came next I was not prepared for. I messaged Tom over the weekend, without much reply, asking how his uncle was and when he was coming back to Mercer. My heart grew weary, but I had to trust that he was coming back. 1 week went by. The text message dwindled. By week 2, they were non-existent. What had happened? The final blow was during science class. fourth period. I'll never forget when Mr. Prasad came into class and struck Tom's name off the attendance list. "Why'd you do that?" I asked him. Mr. Prasad responded, "Tom doesn't go to this school anymore. He moved to Toronto last week." I tore out of class and headed to the washroom, certain I was going to be sick. I texted Tom one last time. "Dana, how could you?" I never heard from Tom again. He abandoned me for Toronto and took my broken heart with him.